Okay, so let's first do a calculation that we can actually understand. So if you look at the test data, you can see we've got some actual values that should work out. So let's deal with this one. Let's have this one, number 4, the 92,400 seconds equals 1 day, 1 hour and 40 minutes. Okay, so that's what we want to try and prove, and then work a method for that. So I'm just going to use some space here. Okay, let's do some working out here. Let me get my okay, so it's 92,400 seconds, and we've got to turn that into days, hours and minutes. Okay, and I know that it's 1 day, 1 hour and 40 minutes. So we've got to prove that. So how do we go about calculating that? So the first thing we know, the first fact that we know, is that 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. Okay, 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So let's take our number of seconds and work out how many minutes it is. So I'm going to calculate minutes. So I'm going to do that by doing 92,400 div 60. Now just to remember that div is it's an integer division. Okay, in other words, that's a whole number division. Okay, an integer is a whole number, so it's a whole number division. So it will give us an answer which is a whole number. So if I do that on the calculator, if I do 92400, if I do divided by 60, okay, I want to take the integer part of that. So here's the calculator. So if I do it 92400 divided by 60, I just take the whole number part. So the whole number part is 1540. So it actually works out exactly. So it's 1540. So that means that many seconds is that many minutes. Okay, so that helps us a little bit now. So we can now work out from that how many hours there are. So I'm going to calculate the hours from that. So the calculation that I need to do now is I've got this many minutes and I need to divide that too. So if I divide that again by 60, because I know for a fact, okay, so this time my fact for hours is that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 60 again. That's a calculation that I need to do. So let's do 1540 divided by 60 and take the whole number part. So again, so if I divide that by 60 now, I get 25.667. 25.667. But that means that 1540 div 60 will be 25. Okay, so that equals 25, which is good, because I think that's what we want. But that I know I can see that 25 hours is 1 day and 1 hour, which is what I'm trying to prove. Okay, but how am I going to get the minutes that are left over? So it's this 0.667 that I need to utilize. So the complementary function from div is mod. So if I did 1540 mod 60, that should give me the remainder. So as you can see, 0.667 is 2/3, so 2/3 of an hour is 40. So it should give me 40 minutes if I do that. So that's helpful as well, because now I've got 40 minutes here, and I can see where my 1 day and 1 hour comes from. Okay, so I've got 40 minutes left over and 25 hours. Now let's work out how many hours how many days 25 hours is. Now if I was doing a calculate days, then I would be dividing by 24. Okay, so I would be saying now I've got 25 and I would need to do div 24. How many days are there? So we can see that it's going to be 1. It goes in there 1, and the remainder will be how many hours there are actually left over. So 25 mod 24, as you can see, will be 1 hour left over. So I've got my answer from here. You can see I've got 1 hour, 1 day, 1 hour and 40 minutes. Now I did that by calculating the minutes. Okay, this is what we did, calculate the minutes, then we calculated the hours, and then we calculated the days. Okay, now some of these divisions I wouldn't do if if this value was less than 60, then I wouldn't be divvying by 60 because the answer would be 0. Okay, but I need to build that into my algorithm. So my algorithm is going to run along these lines. So if I've worked it out like this, I think I need to work my algorithm out along these lines too. So let's do that. We'll do that in the next part. Now, so we've worked out, we've got to calculate the minutes, got to calculate the hours, and then we're going to calculate the days. So let's do our structure chart then. So I want to convert to days, so I'm going to do what I just did. So the first thing I need to do is to get the number. Okay, and we can do the same as we did before. So actually I'll change that to input. Okay, this is what we did before. So I want to get the number and I want to validate the number. Okay, now I need more than one more step along on level 1. So on level 1 I need to say calculate minutes, and then I need another one on here as well. So let's tab that one out, and I need to calculate, which way around did I do? I calculated hours, and then I calculated minutes, or days, sorry. Okay, so to check what I did, so that's what I did, minutes and hours and then days. Okay, minutes, hours and then days, and then I got to do some output. Okay, now as far as the structure chart goes, that's as far as we need to go. We don't need to do any more. We don't need to break any of these down, because as we're breaking them down, we're actually getting into the algorithm, and I don't want us to get into the algorithm at this stage. Okay, so we've got some clear steps that we need to do. So that's the structure chart done. So don't do any more than that. Don't delve any more into that. So right, we'll do the algorithm next. Okay, so now we need to write the algorithm. So according to our structure chart, we just got one function, is get input, and then we're doing some calculating the minutes, the hours and the days. So my function is going to be exactly the same as I've done before. Okay, so it doesn't need to be any different. So what we've done before, we've said we've got a is valid, and we're saying that we'll set that to false to start with, and then we use a while loop. Okay, don't forget your do's. I've noticed quite a lot of people not doing the do, and I tend to, if I write a while, I'll write the end while. Okay, and at the end of that while we will return the number. Okay, so in the loop we input the number, and then we ask the question if the number and the condition is just, it's got to be greater or equal to 0. Okay, then valid equals true, so is valid becomes true, and if that's not the case, then it's invalid, and we'll just output a message, and I'll just put error message there. Okay, again, you don't need to be specific about the messages here, but you must close your end ifs and your ifs. Okay, so that's just exactly the same as we've done before. Now notice quite a lot of you who are trying to do recursive functions where you call in the function itself. Okay, it's not a good way of programming, because you're actually using up more memory. You're actually, once you recall the function, you use more memory, you allocate more memory. So here we're not allocating memory, we're being efficient and reusing memory. So that's one of the important things to do. So don't do it like that. Don't call the function again. Okay, it's not a proper use of a recursion. There are some very good uses of recursion, and that's important. So let's do the main routine. I mean, the only other thing to say about the validation is pretty much the same all the time. It's just the condition that changes. Okay, so we're going to stick with that. So let me, we'll do the main routine next. Okay, so the main routine fell into 3 sections. So what we did here, we calculated the minutes, calculated the hours, and calculated the days, but obviously we also got the get input as well. So there should be, and then we got an output. So just need to be careful of what we call things. Okay, so let's do a number of seconds, if you like. That's the first thing we're going to have, and that will be, we'll use get input to get that number for us. Okay, so that's there. That's that first part taken care of. Now I'm going to do it like we calculated, so I'm just going to put a label in there, a comment, calculate the minutes. Right, so this is the number of minutes, isn't it? So let's call it minutes. And how did we calculate that? We dived by 60. I'm not interested in the seconds, any seconds left over. So it's a whole number of minutes. So that's div 60. Okay, so that gives us how many minutes there are. But it's not how many are left. So we'll work through that in a minute. So now we're going to calculate. What did we do next? We did hours. Calculate hours. Okay, I'll just highlight that as well. Green. In green, just so you can see. Okay, so we did that by dividing by here, divided by 60. Now the only issue we have is what if minutes isn't bigger than 60? So I'm going to ask that question. So if minutes is less than 60, then what do we do? So that means we're finished. Okay, we've already worked out how many minutes there are. So we're going to say minutes left. Let's have that one. Minutes left is equal to, actually we can just call it minutes, can't we? So minutes is equal to, well, it's minutes, isn't it? So it's there, so it's as it is. So we just need to say hours is equal to 0, and days is also equal to 0. A Word always capitalizes these, so let's uncapitalize them. Okay, so if the minute is 0, then we can do that. Right, so what if minutes isn't 0? So that's where we can do the div. So we're going to say minutes becomes minutes div 60. Now the only issue we have here is we will lose whatever minutes was before. So sorry, I've done that wrong, haven't I? So that should be yeah, that should be hours. Hours equals minutes div 60, and then we can say what we've got left over is minutes mod 60. Okay, so remember that's what we did here. Okay, calculate the hours, we dived by 60 to get the hours, and then we modded by 60 to get the minutes that are left. Okay, right. Now we've calculated the hours, so now in this else we need to calculate the days. So to calculate the days, we're going to ask the same question about the hours. So if the hours are not bigger than 24, then there's no point in doing the calculation. So if the hours is less than 24, then that means we're finished, really. So we can say that the days is going to be 0, because there's no days, because it's not bigger than 24, and that the hours is what we've set already. Hours is what we set already, and the minutes is what we've set already. Okay, so else, so if it's bigger than 24, then we can calculate days. So days will be equal to the hours div 24. Okay, and then we can say that the hours will be what's left over from the hours. So that's hours mod 24. Okay, and then we end if there, and we've got another if we've opened, so we end if that as well. And then we output days, hours and minutes. Okay, I don't need to see any prompts or any text there. That's all I need to see. Right, okay, so we've got a calculation, we've got an algorithm there. Now the key thing to do is to try and make sure that that does actually work. So the next thing to do is actually push that through, push some data through that and trace it through to check that it works. Now it might not work, I might not have got it right, but I'm going to check it. 24, no it's not, so then we go to here, so days equals hours div 24. So again we've got hours is 250, div 24, we get 10. Okay, so we've got 10 hours, and then hours changes, sorry, days is 10, my fault, days is 10, and then we've got hours mod 24, so there's 240 there, aren't there? So that'll be 10 as well, so mod left over, and that's 10 as well. So my output will also be 10, 10, 10, which is what we worked out. Okay, now the one important thing to stress is that this testing has been done. Okay, I haven't written a program, I haven't run it through, but I know my program, if I write a program now for this, I know for sure that it works. Now, we shouldn't be in any doubt about running our program and making sure that it's going to work. The only errors you should have are with any spellings that you do when you actually input this into the programming language. But this algorithm works, and we know that it works because we've tested it. Okay, so that's this question done. So here's my table, and I just need to, I've got my algorithm here, and I just need to work the table. So the identifiers are, we've got seconds already, so I want to put minutes in, and I want to put hours in, and I want to put days in, and that's it. So that'll be my output there. So I'm just going to highlight that. Let's fill that in so we know that that's the top. Okay, so here's my algorithm. So let's run through the algorithm. All right, so we've got seconds equals 60. Let me just get something that we can go with. I'm just going to use this to just trace down so we know where we are in the algorithm. Okay, so here on my algorithm, seconds equals get input, so we put in 60, so that's gone into the table. And then the next thing it says is minutes goes to minutes seconds div 60. So if I've got 60 on the first test, if I do div 60 into that, that'll be 1. Okay, so is minutes less than 60 is the next answer. Yes, it is. So hours become 0 and days become 0, and then I go to the else and I jump over all of that because that's to do with the else, and then I output days, hours and minutes. So my output will be that the days, let's put it here, so I should be outputting days is 0, 0 and 1 minute. Okay, so 60 seconds, that's fine. Okay, I'll put 60 on each one, haven't I? So I should have, well, that's a good test anyway. So let's do 600 then as well. So that one worked. So let's get rid of them, we don't need them anymore. Let's do 600 this time. So let's do the same. That's my bar. Here it is. Okay. So this time get input 600. So if I do minutes div 60, so minutes div 6, sorry, I need to do the same again. Minutes, hours, days. Okay, so minutes equals seconds div 60, so 600 divided by 60. I hope we can just say, okay, it's 10. So again, if minutes is less than 60, which is true, then I set hours to 0, and I also set days to 0. Okay, and then else, and then jumps to the end if, and then we output that. So that should output 10, 0 and 0. Oh, it's the other way around, shouldn't it? Days 0, 0, 0 and 10. So that's right according to the test data. That's what it should be. Right, let's try 5400 now. So let's get rid of that one. So let's do the same again this time. So we've got minutes. I'll start this on the top of a new page, I think. There we go. Oh, that's going to be a problem. Let's push it down a bit. So it's just a problem with Word. It's not anything to worry about. It's just me trying to do the video. Okay, so we said 5,400. Okay, so minutes, hours and days. Okay, so 5,400 is what we got. So we work out the number of minutes, so that's divided by 60. So if we want to do it, let's do it on the calculator to be sure. 5,400 divided by 60 equals 90. Right, so minutes becomes 90. There we go. So this time, is minutes less than 60? No, it's not. So hours becomes minutes div 60. So how many 60s in 90? It should be 1. And minutes becomes the remainder of that division. So that should be 30. We got it wrong around. So hours it's 1 and minutes, sorry, my fault. So minutes has changed now to 30. Okay, so if hours is less than 24, which it is, then days will be set to 0. And remember, I've moved to this line here, so all my writing now in my trace table is on that right line. So I'm going to set days to 0, and it says else, so then I jump to the end. So I output now days, hours and minutes. So my days is 0, my hours is 1, and then 30 minutes. So is that what I'm expecting? 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I've got 1 hour and 30 minutes. Okay, so that's correct. Okay, so good so far. Good so far. Okay, let's do another one. And test 4, I think with test 4 we've already done, we know that works, but let's see, and our algorithm should work with that. Let's try it. Okay, so it's 92 400, and we've got minutes, hours, and days. Okay, so minutes, in terms of that, minutes is that, so minutes equals seconds div 60, and we worked that out before. That was 1540. And then, is minutes less than 60? Yes. No, it's not. So we jump to the else. So we can work out hours. Hours is minutes div 60. So if we div it 60, we got 25. And minutes is what we got left. So minutes changes now to 40. So remember, now we're on that line, so everything else stays on that line. And then hours, is hours less than 24? No, it's not. So we work out days. So days is hours div 24. So days is hours div 24, and the 24 is in 25 is 1. And then hours changes to whatever hours is mods 24. So that's a 1 as well. Okay, end div, and output the days, hours, and the minutes. So my output on this line will be 1, 1, and 40. So far so good. So we're getting an algorithm that actually works, and it runs through and gives us values. If your algorithms are not giving you zeros for the days or for the hours, then you need to make sure that it does. Okay, that's an important part. So now we've got 900 600 seconds. So let's try that one. So this time we've got 900 600. So does that work? Okay, so let's say seconds. Let's put that in there. Sorry to put these things in, and we're nearly done. Right, so seconds, get input. So we've done that. Minutes equals seconds div 60. So let's clear that. So we've got 900 600 divided by 60. Okay, so what was that? That was 15010. 15010. Okay, is minutes less than 60? Nope. Else we go to hours. So hours will be minutes div 60. So we divide this by 60 again. Okay, so we've got 250. But there's some left over. Okay, so what's left over? How do we know what's left over? So it says 0.16667. So a quick way to do that is we just divide it by 60. So let's take 250 from that and multiply that by 15010. Oh, that's not right, is it? So let's cancel that. So 250 hours times 60, so 250 times 60, that's that. So it's just got 10 left over, isn't it? Okay, so there should just be 10 left over. So minutes is going to be 10 left over, so we are there. So we change that to 10. And then again, if the hours is less than 24,